What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Reality Decoded. In this episode, I hope to cover the concept of self-image, negative self-image, social masks, and internal struggle, and what this means for you as a conscious human being. And from this episode, I hope that you all gain some insight on how to not be fooled by your brain's limitations, which there aren't any limitations to your brain. That's the catch. It's all in your head. Let's go exploring.
For some time now, I've been interested in a discovery about human behavior called self-image psychology. You may already be familiar with the self-image idea. This is the principle that each of us is controlled by his mental picture of himself. If you've thought much about it, I'm sure you agree that a good self-image is vital to our happiness and to the achievement of our goals in life. But if you aren't yet familiar with this new idea, let me introduce it by quoting my old friend Dr. Maxwell Maltz, who said, "The most important psychological discovery of this century is the discovery of the self-image." Our self-image is our own conception of the sort of person I am. Each of us builds a self-image out of his beliefs about himself. It's unconsciously formed from past experiences, our successes and failures, our humiliations and triumphs. It determines the way we interpret other people's reactions to us. In short, this mental picture we have of ourselves turns out to be a kind of life-governing device. Now, that's the most significant part of the whole self-image principle, that our mental picture determines our interpretation of everything that goes on about us, our reactions to life and other people, our feelings, thoughts, actions, even our abilities. We are the person we believe ourselves to be, if we're anywhere near normal, and we're consistently that person in everything. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? It's exciting, too, when we realize that our self-image can be changed. If for one reason or another we've developed an image that's too limited to permit our achieving maximum results in life, that image can be enlarged, improved. There's one point to keep in mind here, though. We can't outgrow the limits we impose on ourselves. Our thoughts, habits, even our abilities must be those of the person we believe ourselves to be. We can set new limits in place of old ones, but we can't surpass the limits of our current self-image. There's a story about a Wisconsin farmer who was walking through his fields one day when he stumbled over a little glass jug in his pumpkin patch. Out of curiosity, he poked a young pumpkin through the neck of the jug, being careful not to break the vine. Then he placed his little experiment back on the ground and walked away. When harvest time came, the farmer was working his way down a row of big ripe pumpkins when he again came upon the glass jug. But this time it looked different. Picking it up, he discovered that the young pumpkin he had poked inside now completely filled its glass prison. Having no more room, it had stopped growing. The farmer broke the jug and held in his hand a runt pumpkin, less than half the size of all the other pumpkins and exactly the shape of the jug. Well, people aren't pumpkins, but our self-image is something like that jug. It determines the size and kind of person we become. The similarity ends with the fact that we can remove our self-imposed limitations by enlarging our self-image. We form a mental picture of ourselves through experience, and we can change that picture the same way, through experience. If the actual experience we need is not available to us, we can, according to self-image psychology, create that experience synthetically. Now, scientists agree that the human nervous system is incapable of distinguishing between actual experience and the same experience imagined vividly and in complete detail. Worry is a good example of this synthetic experience. When a person worries about something, he projects himself mentally, emotionally, even physically, into a situation that hasn't even occurred. The man who worries intensely about, well, say, failure, finds himself experiencing the same reactions that accompany actual failure, feelings of anxiety, inadequacy, and humiliation, and eventually headaches and an upset stomach. As far as his mind and body are concerned, he has failed. And if he worries about it long enough, if he concentrates on failure intensely enough, he will upset himself to the extent that he will fail, and he'll get sick. Now, everything can be used in either of two ways, positively or negatively, constructively or destructively. Worry is the negative use of creative imagination. It's a negative synthetic experience. But most people apparently never realize that positive results, just as real as the negative results of worry, can be achieved through using our imagination constructively. Our minds are complex and marvelous, but like electronic computers, they can only act on the data we feed them. The man who worries about failure is unwittingly defeating himself. He's feeding his mind the wrong data. If he spent the same amount of time visualizing success as he spends thinking about failure, he could reverse the process of synthetic experience. Instead of anxiety, he could develop confidence, self-assurance, poise, and a feeling of well-being would replace apprehension. By concentrating on the success he desires, by synthetically experiencing that success, he can expand his self-image into that of a person for whom success is normal, expected. Why not practice holding the self-image of the person you most want to become? This is the person you can become. If you feel you'd like to enlarge your self-image, then I'd like to invite you to join me in some image building. During the next few weeks, listen to this message at least once a day. This way you'll firmly implant in your mind the concept of the self-image. Use your spare moments to concentrate on your goals and the greater success you seek. Analyze your past successes and formulate ways your success can be increased in the future. While on the way to work, between appointments, while waiting to see a client, these are all excellent times for directing your attention to positive, constructive thoughts. Put more into the positive use of your imagination than you ever put into its negative use, worry. You're merely reversing the same creative process. Now it's working for you instead of against you. Now, since the mind works best when we feed it only one set of instructions, do not worry if you can help it during the course of this exercise. Your creative imagination can enlarge your self-image appreciably in just 3 weeks, and it will if you just let it. Nobody pokes us into glass prisons beyond which we can't grow, but all too often, almost unknowingly, we set unnecessary limits for ourselves by holding a self-image that's restricted, inadequate for the full realization of our potentialities. Each of us is, at this moment, the product of all his thoughts and experiences and environment up to this point. Through thought, we can control to an almost unbelievable degree both our experience and our environment from here on. Whether or not we choose to direct our own course through life is entirely up to us. The important thing is to know that it can be done. This is Earl Nightingale, and thank you.
I find it proper to start this episode with a definition of what self-image is described as according to modern psychology. Self-image is the idea of one's own abilities, appearance, or personality. It is a mental picture that is generated and usually is quite resistant to change. It refers to specifically in how we see ourselves on a global level, both internally and externally. There are actually 4 types of self-image. The first type is the one that we just talked about, how you see yourself. And how you see yourself oftentimes is layered in obscurity because of your brain's mental barriers that it will put on itself. Your brain is so smart that it tricks you into thinking you're dumb. That's how amazing the human mind really is. And although it is actually impossible to precisely calculate our brain's operating power, it's postulated that the brain operates at 1 to the exaflop, which is actually equivalent to a billion calculations in a second. So just consider for a second how many versions of this self-image that you're going to be able to generate on yourself, being able to do a billion calculations a second. How many times you're going to second guess that in comparison to other people's social masks, okay? That's one of those mental barriers that I talk about. The second level of self-image results from how others see you, which is what we call the social mask. And a social mask is generated based on how you want others to perceive you. It comes from your passions and your ideals and the things that you want to show people that you're happy and proud of. Look at my work. Read my book. Look at my calculations that I calculated for the sky. Any of that kind of stuff. That is a social mask. And what's amazing about a social mask is that you cover or hide or mask the internal struggles that we all go through and present to other people sociologically this social mask, which is where the phrase comes from, please don't ever compare your internal struggles to other people's social masks. You will never win that battle because a social mask is designed to present only the best of somebody. Look at Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Tumblr. One need not turn very far to see all of the generated social masks and constructs that exists in modern society and ways to hide your real self, when the goal of all of this is to reveal your true self. This goes back to an earlier video I talked about how your passions are given to you on purpose. They're yours for a reason. It could have come from a version of you in a past life, genetic ancestral DNA messages that were passed down through your lineage, or even psychological and sociological habits that were picked up from your parents, friends, family, close acquaintances, etc., people you thought were cool. And to be honest, that's actually where the social mask is generated from. It is a culmination of all the people that we ever thought were cool, spliced into our own personality and added with a little bit of texture. That's all it is. The third type of self-image is the self-image of how you think other people perceive you. In modern society, we can see a lot of masculine figures who are afraid to cry, who are afraid to be in touch with that emotional side of them for fear of it making them look weak. I've never...
Your middle name is Macho, but I'm wondering if you ever cry. Has a Macho Man ever cried?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh. It's okay for macho men to show every emotion available right there, you know, because I've cried 1,000 times, I'm gonna cry some more. But I've soared with the eagles, and I've slithered with the snakes, and I've been everywhere in between. And I'm going to tell you something right now. There's one guarantee in life, and that there are no guarantees, yeah. And understand this. Yeah. Nobody likes a quitter. Nobody said life was easy, so if you get knocked down, take the standing 8 count, get back up, and fight again. And you're a macho maniac. Dig it.
I've never understood that. I've never quite understood that, but that's okay. It's not my place to understand. It is just my place to observe and learn from the mistakes of society as a 21st century male. And the last type of self-image, or the fourth, and this one's a little convoluted to explain. This one comes from the individual observing the individual, seeing oneself. So it's you looking at you, double checking to make sure there's no cracks in any of the walls and the dams, being able to present yourself to other people. So you are looking at the version of you show other people. Try and wrap your brain around that one. Self-image is probably one of the top 5 most important characteristics a person can have. Why? Because it literally dictates an aspect of how you function in everyday life. If you hate yourself, you're not going to want to do anything. And the exact opposite, if you love yourself, you're going to want to do a lot of stuff. You're going to be high energy, high vibrational level. And not to mention, it is known now that a positive self-image not only boosts your self-esteem, but it boosts your mental power, your social capabilities, it boosts your emotional and spiritual well-beings. It purifies the internal part of you, and then the external part of you becomes a reflection of that purified internal. To develop a positive self-image, one need not turn but to things like self-truth, self-identity, just awareness of self, knowing who you are and what you stand for and in what direction you're trying to get your vessel to sail. Understanding the long-term goals that you have for yourself, understanding the limits to your capacitance right now, and the different ways in which you can expand your horizons and learn new things, learn new skills, absorb energy into yourself to become this universally, divinely inspired creative being for all of the betterment of mankind. Self-image is a direct reflection not only of how you see yourself, but it really affects your preconceived notions of other people as well. If you can look for the good in yourself and look past the bad, it really expounds on the ability to look at other people and to see the good in them and to be willing to help them. And in this aspect, we can explore the different versions of the self. So you have the self that is the ego, right? And the ego makes us think that we're separate from everything else, when in reality we're not. Just like the blades of grass outside, we see them growing out of the ground and the roots in the ground, and we see they're still connected to the earth. But we, as human beings, because we can pick our feet up, we do not understand that we are still connected to the ground. We are like fingers of a hand reaching up through the dirt. We're all still connected to the same body, and yet we have different heads. So the ego makes us think that we're separate. That's the version of self that you have that is of the ego. Then you have what's called the superficial self. That exists within the mind. Although it is an egoic creation, it's often called the true self or the witness. And it's what the Tao teaches about where you go to when you turn off the external stimuli and you turn on the internal stimuli. That's where you go. You become the ultimate witness. Having a positive sense of self not only improves your own health and well-being, but it also affects characteristics of your aspect of your being by helping you trust your own judgment and helping you make better decisions. These are crucial leadership qualities in the modern age that are sorely lacking. And not only will this help you in your personal life, but this will help you in your career. The self-worth that you get from having a high self-esteem and self-image value can help you in your leadership qualities to lead meetings, support other team members who are lacking in self-confidence, and to have greater bodily autonomy, as a person in general. One of the things that Carl Jung talked about so fervently was positive affirmation. Sticking to the I am and understanding that you are this creator source of energy. So with all this information being flooded at you, let's talk for a moment about how one goes about building self-image and self-esteem. So I would like to give you what I call a 7-step prescription for self-love. Step 1, become mindful. People who tend to have more self-esteem and self-love tend to know what they want, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and to what extent they expect out of other people as well. They are mindful of who they are and what their personal capacitance is, and they act on this knowledge rather than just being reactory beings to the things that happen to them in real life. And they react on this based on their personal beliefs and not what other people want from them. So be mindful of yourself. Be mindful. Step 1. Here we go. Step 1. Step 2 is learn to act on what you need versus what you want. We all love ourselves the most, and we all secretly want what's best for ourselves, just sometimes we don't know what that is. And if you were an abused kid or lived in an abused situation, it is no stranger to you to resist the things that feel good to you because you think you don't deserve it. By staying focused on what you need rather than what you want, you actually turn away from the automatic negative habits that we have every day. A lot of these are generated from our environment, or from our parents, or even our siblings, friends, and family in general. You figure out what it is that keeps you strong and mentally sane. And what's most amazing about this is by turning away from that old negative behavior that no longer serves you, you are in turn no longer trying to escape from your past, which is also running away from your future. So learn to act on what you need and not what you want. It will take you really, really far in life. Step 3 is learning to practice good self-care. I like to call this quality of life. You will love yourself more naturally when you learn to take care of yourself better. Whether it's shaving, taking a bath, eating healthily, working out, it does not matter. Your self-esteem will grow with the more self-maintenance that you perform. People with high self-esteem nourish themselves on a daily, consistent daily basis with positive affirmation, proper diet, proper exercise, proper mental focus, mental stimuli like chess, games like that, books, nature time, anything that promotes positive self-image, meditation, any of it. There's a saying that I love from Hermetics that says, a sound mind in a sound body. That is practicing self-care and self-love. And that's step 3, my loves. So this brings us to step 4. Learn to set personal boundaries. This not only protects your well-being, but it also protects your hopes and dreams because you're not telling them anymore to small-minded people who can just crush them. And you will in turn love yourself more if you set healthy boundaries with people, because this mode teaches you what it is in real life that you want or don't want. And thus you can do the less of what you don't want and focus more on what you do want, or at least in what you need. When you learn to say no to the things and the people that deplete your energy, you gain this unlimited, almost cosmic battery, which allows you to express yourself on a higher and higher level every day. So the 4th step is to practice that good self-care and quality of life, okay? You deserve to have the best of the best because you are the best. Step 5, learn to protect yourself. You gotta build the right team. If you have energetic vampiric friends, you will never be able to escape that reality. These people are just cosmic fun suckers, okay? You need to leave them in the dust. Leave them in the dust. We often know a lot of these types of people in the form of frenemies. Friends who relish in your pain and always want to be around to ride the emotional curtails of your experience because they themselves don't know how to have their own emotional experience because they have not become self-aware yet. My suggestion to you here, just get rid of them. Just get rid of them, okay? There just is not enough time in your life to waste on people who have no ambitions and no hopes and dreams. If your circle of friends is not discussing philanthropy, entrepreneurialism, creating a business, anything like that, you should probably find a new circle of friends. By learning to protect yourself more, the light that you shine from within actually acts as a form of protection. It repels these evil entities, okay? So step number 5 is learn to protect yourself spiritually, mentally, and physically. Okay, so step 6 in the prescription of self-love, and probably the hardest of them all, brace yourselves. You have to forgive yourself. Take a moment. I hope this video gives you a cosmic perspective.
The cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be. Our contemplations of the cosmos stir us. There's a tingling in the spine, a catch in the voice, a faint sensation as if a distant memory of falling from a great height. We know we are approaching the grandest of mysteries. The size and age of the cosmos are beyond ordinary human understanding. Lost somewhere between immensity and eternity is our tiny planetary home, the Earth. For the first time, we have the power to decide the fate of our planet and ourselves. This is a time of great danger, but our species is young and curious and brave. It shows much promise. In the last few millennia, we have made the most astonishing and unexpected discoveries about the cosmos and our place within it. I believe our future depends powerfully on how well we understand this cosmos in which we float like a mote of dust in the morning sky. The cosmos is also within us. We're made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself.
We as human beings are so hard on ourselves. The ultimate downside of becoming aware is taking responsibility of your own actions and thus punishing yourself for it. But to what extent do you need to really punish yourself for it? To what extent is the psychological trauma of failing yourself and your peers and everything like that, to what extent is that enough? And you can forgive yourself and move on to the next thing. Really take a moment to think about that. Learn to set your own boundaries. That's part of that. That includes the self-punishment, self-reprimand, self-condemnation, okay? If you set personal boundaries with other people, set a personal boundary with yourself. It's the same thing. This is how you truly learn and grow from your mistakes. You have to accept your humanity because it is your ticket to your immortality. If you practice daily on being less hard on yourself, it actually in turn allows you to not be so hard and judgmental in criticism of other people, allowing for more self-forgiveness, allowing for more group forgiveness, allowing for more group compassion, and thus allowing for more team growth. If you have learned to grow from your mistakes, these are only lessons learned. Speed bumps in the road, my loves. So learn to forgive yourself. I know I forgive you. And last but not least, my personal favorite, I call it the rule of life, L-I-F-E. Live it fully every day. When you embrace the concept of life, you live intentionally. You live with purpose and magnanimity. You will accept self-love more. You'll believe these positive affirmations that you tell yourself more. You will expound your horizons, enabling you to be able to have compassion and consideration towards others as well. Of an infinite capacity, mind you. And it is true that you can only love somebody else as much as you are able to love yourself. I firmly believe this world suffers from a lack of love, specifically positive self-image. We have been beaten into this hypnotic state of complacency, contentedness, laziness, that we believe now that consumerism is the way. But I'll leave you with these mighty words of Elon Musk. If all producers of things just stopped producing things, there would be nothing to consume. Take that into consideration. Each one of us has a gift. Each one of us was sent here on purpose with a mission to deliver that gift. That's why it's called your presence, because you are a gift. I know I love you, and I know that here at Reality Decoded, we wish you only the best. Learn to develop your positive self-image. It will perform miracles in your life. I love you guys. I'll see y'all next time.